Well, hi guys. Coach Jerry here at the Protocol in Tucson, Arizona, and welcome to our February mobility warm-up. Every February, we honor the loving memory of B. Bolin by doing the Five Tibetans. So this is one of the oldest warm-ups that we teach in here. It's about 2,500 years old. It is an anti-aging warm-up, and it may be a little bit tougher than it seems. I'm going to walk through some of these movements. I'm also going to be referring to them the way B used to refer to them. And with that said, let's go ahead and get started here. So the first one is actually one of the most challenging ones, and it's called following the rotation of the universe. Now, this is a spinning exercise. So before we get into it, let's start off with what we're going to do before and after we spin. I'm going to come into what martial artists refer to as the square horse. My feet are just outside of shoulder width apart. I have a gentle bend in my knee, and I have what's called, it's like mass over base. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to have my left hand on my belly first. Ladies will actually have their right. The other hand goes over. And you just breathe into your belly, into your hands. Fill a balloon, empty a balloon. And you'll do this with your gaze fixed about 8 to 10 feet on the floor in front of you. This is the position that you want to come back to after you're finished spinning. It'll help the room slow down a little bit. Each of the five Tibetans we're just going to demonstrate a few repetitions of today, but the goal is to be able to slowly work up to 21 continuous repetitions of each activity before moving on to the next activity. So now that we have that out of the way, let's go ahead and begin with the spins. So we are going to spin clockwise. We're going to press our fingers together, point our palms down, and we're just going to move clockwise. Like I said, I'm just going to do a couple of repetitions here. When you've had about all the spinning that you can tolerate, you will come back to that square position, hands on the belly, fix your gaze 8 to 10 feet out on the floor in front of you. Take some nice, gentle, deep breaths until the room slows down. Once you're finished with that, we're ready to go to the next Tibetan. The next Tibetan is called The Root Pushes Through the Soil. This is what some of you guys know of as the head up, legs up. So we're going to come down and we're going to lie down on our backs. Place your hands underneath your lower back, palms facing down. And keeping your knees as straight as possible, you're going to bring your legs up into an L position while simultaneously tucking in your chin to your chest. It looks like this. As you come back down, you want your heels and your head to touch at the same time. I didn't do a very good job on that first demonstration. Let me see if I can do one better here. And again, I'm just demonstrating a handful of repetitions. When you do this on your own, you'll be working up to 21 continuous reps. The third Tibetan is a stalk, is both thin and strong, and it sways, yet remains standing in the wind. This is known as the kneeling backbend. We're going to come into a tall kneeling position. You're going to place your hands on your back with your palms on your butt, with your fingers pointing down. There's a little bit of neck mobility that goes with this one. So I'm going to tuck my chin into my chest, tip my head back, and continue into that back bend. When I return, tuck the chin back into the chest. Now, when I go into that back bend, my glutes should automatically know to contract. The contraction of the glutes is what protects your lower back when you go into this drill. You may notice that as I'm going through these, I'm not discussing too much as far as breathing goes. That's on purpose. Anyone who demonstrates the Tibetans and says that you have to breathe a certain way, they're making it up. The original Tibetans made no mention of what type of breathing. Now, with the head up, legs up, you may want to instinctively exhale as you come up. With this one, you may want to instinctively inhale as you go back and exhale as you come back down. But again, we were left no instructions on this. The fourth Tibetan is called A River Flows Following the Contours of the Land. In the joint mobility, we refer to this as the table maker. The table maker is done from a seated position. We're going to have our legs out in front of us, Now, depending on your levers, you might need some help with this. I happen to have longer arms and a shorter torso, so I don't need much help, but you may need to find yoga blocks or something to to have your hands on, so when you pop up, you can get your hips off the ground. So in either case, I'm going to put my hands down here on the ground. My fingers are pointing forward, and I'm just in front of my hips. When I pop up in this position, my butt comes up off the ground. I'm going to tip my hips forward and my head back and come into a table. When I rock back, I'm going to come back with straight knees and come right back into my second repetition. This is the one that takes me the longest to work up to the 21 reps because of some tightness that I have in my shoulders. But in a perfect world, you would be able to have slow, controlled motion here for 21 reps without your butt ever touching the ground. So, as I mentioned, don't force it into pain. Just start with a number of reps that works well for you and work your way up from there. The last Tibetan is the waterfall spills a powerful current into the wading pool. For those of you who have practiced a lot of yoga, you guys would know this as downward facing dog to upward facing dog. So getting into down dog to up dog, I like to go from the top of a push-up position. So I'm just going to get into a good top of push-up. My feet and my hands are the same width apart, and I'm going to tip my butt up and back into downward facing dog. If it's your first down dog of the day, you might want to paddle your feet and spend a little extra time there. But in either case, when you transition this motion, you're going to inhale, get your hips towards the ground, and look up. The only part of my body that's making contact with the ground are my hands and my feet. So those are the 5 Tibetans. My favorite thing about this warm-up is that it seems like all the things that tend to give us grief as we age, the 5 Tibetans take each of those things and have like a separate movement just for that. So one of the first things that gives us problems as we age is balance. Our vestibular system starts to give us grief. The first Tibetan trains your vestibular system. The more you can get accustomed to spinning, the better your balance is from that perspective. Next, we go straight into core, which is something that a lot of us struggle with as we age. And then you have the thoracic spine mobility, the kneeling back bend. And then shoulders tend to get really stiff as we age. We do tend to lose shoulder mobility, so then you go into the one that has the emphasis on the shoulder. And the last one, to me, the downward facing dog to upward facing dog is a hip hinge style of movement. I've always joked around as the downward facing dog to upward facing dog is kind of like the kettlebell swing of the yoga world. It's this opportunity for us to train this big powerful motor in the center of our bodies to develop strength. So if you've never done a lot of down dog to up dog or any of those vinyasa flows in volume, it is actually a really, really good training session. So guys, those are the 5 Tibetans, and that is the warm-up for February. We'll see you again soon.